good evening everybody, Debbie here from Craftywafty, and tonight we are going to be making this lovely handcrafted Christmas lantern. So if you haven't downloaded your PDF instructions for your cutting and scoring and resources, then I suggest you pop over to our website on the shop, just put in downloads, okay, and then you can get your free copy. But after tonight's event, then obviously it won't be free, but just to give you a heads up, you need to sort of grab that quick. Right, good evening Deborah, welcome. Hope everything's well with you. We'll just wait and see if we've got anybody else joining us this evening. Just to give you a heads up, we've got our Black Friday event going on at the moment, and it's a biggie, 20% off across the store. So if you haven't had a look at our website before, craftywafty.co.uk, then please do go over and have a little look and see if there's anything that takes your fancy. And you also need to just go and have a look. Really, there's loads of stuff on there, and some of our new stuff as well, so it's all good and exciting. Okay, we'll just see if there's anybody else. Please do put a shout out as to where you are. You know, just come on and say a little hello in the comments. That would be lovely. I think I'll give it a minute or two. Right, so it's just turning off the heating a little bit. It gets very warm in here all of a sudden, and then I'll end up melting. Right, okay, so let's make a start then. So as I said, tonight we are making the handcrafted Christmas lantern. I have put a safety warning on here that only battery operated lights only to go inside. So I'm just going to open that up. I've just got one of these little tea lights in here. And I've made the lantern so it will just sort of hold one of those quite nicely, so you haven't got to sort of worry too much about that. And then that sort of pops on. And what I'm going to do is show you how to make the actual lantern itself, how to use the gilding waxes that we've got to sort of dumb down or tone down the black paper, and I will show you how I decorated my one. Okay. So I think we need to make a start. So I'm just going to pop this to one side. If you've got any questions, please do pop them into the comments as we go along. Okay, I'm just going to pop my instruction sheet out the way, and we'll make a start. So you've got your basic lantern, okay, which means that you should have 4 sides at 5.5 by 4 inch. Okay, there should be a lantern base, okay, which you should have 5-inch squares, which you should have 2 pieces of. So we'll just get everything for the construction bit. Then you should have your pyramid sides. Oh, I've just clipped my black papers on there. Let's put them to one side. So your pyramid sides and your pyramid base, and then you should have some little squares, little 1-inch squares for the top part, which is the bit that you're going to put your drawer pull or your little holder onto the top, like so. So that's what that lot is for. Okay, now when I made this, I did use the lovely construction tape to sort of fix it all together, and that's what I will be using tonight. However, if you don't have anything like that, then you can make like little hinges. So let me just quickly show you how to do those. So basically you get your strips of card, and these need to be 1.5 inches wide. So if I just show you this bit first. So if you are joining us and you want to go along and make it, but you haven't got the construction tape, then you can sort of still carry on with it. So you've got a 1.5 inch wide, and then what I do is I score at 3/4 of an inch coming down the middle. Okay, and you put a little crease on that. But it then becomes the bit that you can put your glue on to sort of glue your construction bit, your construction of your lantern together. Okay, so you've got a choice of two ways of doing that. You could just go with it and stick it with glue, but obviously you might need to leave it for a little while just to let it dry before you start doing all the other decorative bits. So you've got a couple of options there on how to decorate this. So let's make a start then. So on my instructions, I've got the lantern sides, and I basically, what I tell you to do is cut a 3/4 of an inch frame out. Okay, so this is, I've done 3 sides already, 1, 2, 3. So I'll show you what I did on there. So let's just get my ruler and pop these bits out to one side. Where did I put my lovely ruler? Right in front of me. There we go. Now I have marked it on with pencil. It just helps me show, you know, where I need to cut up to when I'm doing that. But I will still use my ruler. So 3/4. I have to make sure I've got the right measurement on here. 3/4. And I'm just going to take my knife and I'm just going to cut down in between those horizontal pencil lines. There we go. And then I'm just going to turn around and do that on every side, and you'll need to repeat this on all 4 pieces of your lantern sides. Okay, so I'm just going to, having a sharp blade, Deb, would help. I think my blade needs changing. I'll do that later. It's a little bit sluggish. Right, okay, and we're just going to come down and do this. Now obviously I've decorated this lantern for Christmas. I'm quite looking forward to having the 2 on my fireplace. I think they're going to look really, really lovely. But you can make these for any occasion. But they are just a little bit more sturdy. I don't know if you saw me making the Halloween lanterns, which were just made out of paper, but these are a little bit more sturdy. Okay, it would be lovely to be made like for a wedding or something like that. They would look really good. Okay, I always hang on to these bits. I'll just put that in my pile of stuff. And then what we're going to do is, like with always, is I'm just going to put, as I've done on these ones, a bit of black ink going round. So I've got my lovely Sharpie. I use a chisel tip, so I'm just going to go round the edge like so, and you can do this on each one. I just find with the chisel edge as well, it just makes it easier. Okay, so we're going to do both sides, and then we're going to do the internal bit of the frame as well. So it's easier to do this now. This just helps, like, in case some of my alignments of my paper cutting is slightly squiffy, which is normal. With the best will of intentions, you know what I'm like. But sometimes these can be a little bit on the squiffy side. And I'm just going to now run that pen all the way on the internal bit. I'm not going to worry about the outside because that will be covered with black tape. Okay, so I'm just going to go along and do this. Okay, so you can crack on and get yours all done. All right, and that's our 4 sides. Right, now what I'm going to do is that these are going to line out across 1, 2, 3, 4. When I was originally designing this, I was looking at maybe having it so that one side was open so you could put your tea light in there, but then I found I couldn't find a nice enough closure to add to it to make it look like a little lantern clip. I just couldn't find anything, so that's why I've gone with you putting the little tea light underneath on the base. Okay, now to make this a little bit sturdy, I've also got the internal lantern or pyramid base. Now on my instructions I have called it the internal pyramid base. It's basically, it's just going to help support the frame of the lantern itself. And so what I did is that this originally was a 4-inch square. So if I just show you, so it was a 4-inch square like so. And I've just cut, and I just cut it diagonal across the two. Okay, and these are going to attach onto the top part of our lantern. Okay, these aren't the pyramid bits, like these are not, just so nobody gets confused, these aren't these bits. Okay, we've got bigger bits for that. These are internal. It's just to add some extra added strength to our lantern. Okay, all right, so that's how it's going to go. Okay, and then we will obviously then put on our acetate and everything like that. But before we get to that, we need to join the thing together. Okay, so what I'm going to do first, let's just put those 3 sides there. I'm just going to attach this one to the top of each one. So I'm going to get my tape, get a bit low on my tape here, and I just want enough to go round and wrap it like so. So I'm just going to, whichever angle or whichever way you find easier to do this, so I'm just going to pop that on there. I'm going to take that, so that's halfway, almost halfway up the tape. And then this bit here, I'm going to leave just a little bit of a gap. So if you hold it like so on your tape, and then just sort of flip it down, it's going to give you the distance of the thickness of your construction tape. Okay, and then I'm literally just going to fold those in and across like that. So that just, so as you can see, that will now bend over. I'm just going to pinch those together. I'm just going to cut those straight off, because this bit you won't actually see. This bit, this is an internal part of the lantern. Okay, but what it does do is that it does cover that top part of the lantern, and we're going to do exactly the same on the other sides. So I'm just going to take a bit of tape off. Now unfortunately we don't have this tape in our shop at the moment, although we are trying to get hold of some. But if you do need some, Cool Cats Crafts do it. They I think they call it tiger tape, or it's a bit like picture frame tape, anything along those sort of lines that you can get. But it, you know, it is good stuff, and that's what we want. We want it for our things. Hi Carol, welcome. We've got lovely Carol watching us. So I'm just folding these over. Now what I will say is that all of the videos that I do on my lives do get uploaded onto YouTube. Okay, so if you've missed a part of that, you can do. I mean, obviously you can come back on Facebook and find it in our feed, but just to make it easier for you, I do upload it onto YouTube. I do edit it a little bit, but the basic bones are there. Okay, right, and then we've just got these other 2 to go. I'm just going to take that out. There we go. So we're just going to get all the fiddly bits done first, and then we'll work on our covering and decorating afterwards. Okay, and then this one, so again I'm just putting this on the edge roughly. That's it, and now I'm going to flip that down so it just gives me the gap of the thickness of that construction board. Oh, look at that. That's just, oh, how jammy was that? And that's almost met perfect, that side. It's pure fluke, people. That's what it is. It's a pure fluke. Okay, so just cut those bits off. So as you can see, these bits are just going to fold over. 1, 2, 3, and then our final one. How's everybody doing? I mean, if you're not crafting along with us, that's absolutely fine. If you're just kicking back with a hot chocolate or a glass of something else, or a cup of tea, you're always welcome. And then I said you can catch up and watch back at your leisure. Oh, I've got bits of tape everywhere. Right, let's pop that one on like so. And again, just put on there. Just going to put that down. That gives me that gap. I'm just going to fold that over. There we are. I can pinch those bits down and just trim that off. Okay. So basically this will come together, and what will happen is that when we join these together, they will then fold in to make our lovely square of our lantern. And what we will do is we will then put tape across just to hold it in place, just to make it a little bit sturdy. Okay, right, now we've got our 4 top bits done. They look like little mini houses, don't they? We're now going to do our taping, okay, and we're going to join these 4 together. So a little bit longer tape for this. Now, as I said, if you are using the card and like sort of hinge method, okay, I'll just get my fingers off that tape. What you will do is you will cut a piece that is long enough to go up the outside and glue that on like so. And obviously you would put some on the inside as well, just to keep that sturdy. Right, so when I'm putting this on, what I need to do is make sure that I've got these going again about halfway across that tape, but I need to make sure that I've got them level. So I'm just using my grid here on my mat, and I'm leaving a gap there ready to sort of fold that, so I'm able to sort of fold it like we did at the top. But I'm just, I'll be honest, I'm just doing this by eye. And let's stick that down. It's a little bit fiddly. This is what you could do with about another 3 pairs of hands, but we've got this. We've got this, people. We have, honestly. Right, okay. Take that down just a little bit. There we go. Right, okay. And now I can lift that tape up, fold that bit in. Now I know I've got a bit of an awkward bit here, but I'm just going to fold that in half, sandwich that bit, and then I can just cut that bit out. Okay, but now you can see we're beginning to get this together. So I'm just going to cut that bit out. Just makes it easier. There we are. All right, so that's 2 done, and the beauty is that it's done it both sides for us. Okay, so that's good. But if you can't work with a big strip like that, then do one side and then do the other side. It really doesn't matter. So again, line that up straight. Put that in about halfway, not quite, but almost, because we've got to leave that little gap. And I'll just get the other bit, and again I'm just going to leave a gap, making sure again I've lined it up on my mat like so. Right, let's just trim that, and here we go. And then that will come right over the top. I'm just going to stick that down There we are. Now I can cut that little bit out. So you can see how quickly this is coming together. I absolutely love this. When I was designing it, I had all these other ideas of of what it could be used for. Now I've got like opaque, I suppose you could call that, sort of vellum, sort of acetate vinyl type material that I'm using for the windows, but you could use a clear, you could put a clear acetate in, or like a snowflake acetate in, and you know, and have it clear, and you could actually, when we come to put this all together, you could glue it down and actually make a snow scene in there. So you don't have to put a tea light in it. You could make your own little snow scene or something, you know. There's so many different things that you can do with this, which is what I love about any of these sort of crafting projects. It's your imagination, you know, what you want to do with it is absolutely your choice. And I think that's the beauty of any sort of crafting project, that it's adaptability of what you can do with it. It's just lovely. Right, I'm just going to trim that off. Okay, and we'll come up and put that on there. That one's going to come down. I think I went a bit squiffy on that one. Okay, not quite come over there. I'm just going to add a little bit more tape. I think my tape was just a fraction wonky, but there we go. I can stick that down, that's fine, because we will go over this with the gilding wax and that, so that'll be absolutely fine. So just smooth out those edges. I'm just going to trim this. There we go. Okay, so oh, excuse me. Right, the next bit, we need to run a bit of tape going the whole length now. Okay, and I'm going to do this in 2 parts, I think, because it is a long bit, and I know how sticky this stuff can get, and I'll end up getting all caught up in a 2 and 8. Right, so I'm just going to bring that closer down to me, like so. I'm just going to drop that on there. Obviously I don't need to leave a gap because it's just covering up that bottom edge, and I'm just going to, oh actually, yeah, because I've done it like that, duh, I don't need to cut it 2 bits, Deb. Honestly, I do wonder how my brain works at times, you know. I've always stated I'm not a professional, okay? You just have to go with me. Those of you that know me, you go with me, all right? We get there in the end. We might go around the houses a bit, but we do get there in the end. Okay. I'm just going to take these bits off. So we've now got it on the bottom, like so. Okay, so the only edges that we haven't done are these 2, okay, but we need to attach our acetate and we need to do our black card on there as well. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that to one side for a minute because we'll come back to that. We are going to do the little top bit. Okay, so this is where you've got 5 little 1-inch squares. One of these is going to be the very top bit, which is going to have my little drawer pulls in. So we're just going to do this. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that out. Now the easiest way, I need to find my center point, so I'm just going to get my pencil on one of these squares, and I'm just going to draw from corner to corner, like so, just to get my center point. Okay, so there's my center point, and I now need my pokey tool. There we are. And I'm now going to poke a hole in there, preferably not in my finger. All right, so that's going to go in like so. So that is ready. And now we need to join these all together to make the square, and then we're going to put the lid on top. Okay, so I'm going to have that. I'm going to join this flap bit on first, and then we're going to line these up so they're almost making a little box. If you saw the Halloween one, we're pretty much doing exactly the same, but we're doing these with little squares. All right, okay, so I'm just going to snip these off, and I'm just going to attach that top one. I'm going to go pretty much half in, and I need to allow for that to come to the top and then drop back like so. So that's one bit. Okay, just going to fold that round. Actually, I'm going to go around and do all four sides around that way, because that will cover it up looking at it. So I'm cutting about an inch strip or thereabouts, and we're just going to cover about half of that. I'm not worried if it goes over, because I can just trim that. Actually, let's take that right up to that hole there. There we go. The hole will be covered anyway when we put the brad in. Now, if you don't have one of these like little draw pulls, you can put in a loop of ribbon, okay, or you can put a bit of baker's twine or string or something in there, whichever is easiest for you. If you don't have these, now you can get these off of a variety of different shops, okay. So I'm just going to put that one on like so. There we are. I'm going to put that on. Okay, because I'm just allowing for that to come down. So that's 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then the fourth one. Oh, where's my end of my tape? There it is. And then we're just going to put the fourth one on. There we go. Again, I'm cutting these about an inch strip. And okay, so that's almost covered that hole. I can still see where the hole is. Okay, and now I'm just going to pop that final one on. Okay, so this is making up the top part of our lantern. So before I go around and attach these all together, I need to put my brad in. Okay, now I have on the original one, I have gilded it already with wax, but I can do that afterwards for this bit. So it's only a little bit, so that'll be fine. So I'm just going to poke these through that hole. Okay, and now these are a little bit on the long side, so I'm just going to have these going to the corners, otherwise I would have trimmed it down a bit. So I'm just going to push that down, make sure that's nice and solid. Okay, and I'm going to put a bit of tape across that on the inside, just so it doesn't move it, and it will keep that secure as well. So we're just going to tuck a little bit of black tape on there. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run black tape all the way round to hold it in situ. But before I do that, I am just going to run a bit of Sharpie on the bottom of these, because when this sits on the lantern, just to make sure that no construction board is seen. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm just going to come up just a little bit on either side, just in case I miss my wrapping with it, like so. There we go. On this side and the other side, just to make sure. I'm hoping that I won't miss my wrapping, but you know, it's just one way of covering it up. It's just easier to do it now than trying to do it afterwards. Okay, all right. So I'm going to get my tape. Oh, I've run out of tape. Right, where's my other one? Here we are, got a brand new one. Okay, let's just get this open. Oh, I thought I had more tape on that one. Right, I just got to find the end now. I took that thing off. Where is it? Talk amongst yourselves. 3 hours later, when I found the edge of my tape. Oh, there it is. Okay. It's a bit like the rules of sellotape, isn't it? I suppose everybody will be getting into that now when they're doing all their wrapping and everything. Okay, I'm just going to cut a length off. All right. Now, it's up to you how you want to tackle this. You could either do it while you're holding it in your hand, or how I'm going to do it, she says, is to line this up on the edge of the tape and roll it. Shall we give it a go? I think we need to give it a go. Here we are. Right, okay, so I need to come up to that top edge with that. And I'm just sticking it into the centre part. There we go. So I've got that on. Right, okay. And now I'm just going to bring that side up. Okay, just making sure I've got that. It is a little fiddly. I'll be honest, actually I've taken that up too far. Let's bring that back down again, just a fraction. Right, it's probably easy to do it that way. Okay. Now I can fold that round. Let's put the tape on straight, Deb, that's it. Right, now we can fold that round. There we go. Okay. That's two sides done. Now I'm going to take that other one round. That side. 1, 2, 3. That's 1, 2, 3. And then the fourth side. Okay, so that's moved that a little bit. Let's just bring that, square that up a little bit. There we go. Okay. Right, I think we are there. I'm just going to take the rest of that tape around just to give it extra security. There we go. All right. Okay, so good job I did do my edges, because I can see I've just got a little bit of white showing there. Structure board, just going to run my pen along there. There we go. Right, and that is our top bit done. Ooh, little bit fiddly. I appreciate that. I'm just going to dab that in there. That's it. But this will be all gilded, waxed over, so you're not going to see those bits. Right, okay, so that is our top bit done already. That's nice and secure. That's not going anywhere. Right, we'll pop that to one side. Okay, so coming back to our main lantern piece, what we need to do is sort out our papers, because I want to do all the gilding and everything on this side first before I attach my acetate windows. Otherwise they're going to get into, you know, potentially they could get into a bit of a mess. So you need your black cardstock pyramid. So these are your lantern side frames, 3 3/4 inches by 5 1/4. You need 4 of those, and you need to cut yourself out a 5/8 of an inch frame. So I've done 3 already. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and this is going to be the 4th one. So I'm just going to, now I've already pre-marked that on there with pencil, so again I can get the lines cut. So let's just cut these out. Now you may have already gone ahead and cut yours out, so I'll just cut this final one out. Just bring up that line 2, and then 5/8. Where are we? There we are. 3, and then our 4th side, 5/8, like so. Okay, so I'm just going to, like I said, I need a new knife and blade in. Right, okay, so there we are. There's our 4 frames. So I'm going to get my wax. Now we've got some wax in the shop. I'll just get me messy mat. And right, 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 4 different colours. So depending on what colour you want to use, we've got copper pot, gold bullion, we've got snow white, and we've got silver star. And what I've done is I've already done it on a little bit of black card, so you can see the colours of what they look like. Now the silver and the snowflake are very, or the silver, right, the silver star and the snow white are very similar, but the snow white one, I don't know if you can see that, it's just got a nice sort of shimmer to it. It's very hard probably for you to see these, but this is why I've done them on a bit black card. Has a almost a silvery look to it, whereas the actual silver star one has got a bit more of a grey tint to it. Okay, whereas the other one is a little bit on the whiter side, hence obviously the snow white, but the silver star has got a little bit of a grey blue hue to it almost when you look at it in different lights. Okay, and then the copper pot, as you can see, is just, yeah, it's just got a lovely warm glow to that one. All right, and the one that I'm going to be using is the gold bullion. Okay, because that's got a nice sort of antique-y gold. All right, so this is wax. It's really good stuff. There we are. And I've literally just got a duster. As you can see, I've just used bits of it for doing me different colours and stuff like that. And what we're going to do is that we're just going to colour up these, and I just wanted to show you what they look like. So I'm just getting a bit of wax on there, and I'm just gently rubbing that on initially. Now I can go back over this a little bit more. Just need to be careful I don't rip my frame. Okay. Alright, so I'm just going round this like so. We can come back and add a bit more on there, but I just wanted to get on the insides of this bit of cardstock, because when that comes to sit in with the actual frame bit itself, I just want to make sure that it's covered, because once we put these on and we do put the acetate in for the windows, I don't really want to get this. Alright, so I've got a little bit. Let's just spread that over a little bit. I've got a little bit too much on there, but I'll just sort of rub this off. Now I'm sort of striping this. Oh, I've got it all over my fingers. Okay, but if the bits were bigger, I would probably be going round in circles, would probably be easier. It's a little bit difficult on the frames, but now if you haven't got anything like this, you don't have to do this. That's your choice. But I just think it makes it look. Now you can see I've added a little bit more on one than the other, but that's fine. It's just getting it going, and then I can add more to it once the lantern is done properly. And then we just got the other two. And while I've got this out, I've got it all in my fingers myself here. Right, okay. So we're just going to go round and give these a good rub over. And I can just smooth that in. So you don't need a lot of this. I haven't got a lot of it on the cloth, but I am just making sure I'm going in that inside edge of our frame. And then the last one, and then I will also, while I've got it out, I'm going to do our little gold, our little top bit right as well, while I've got this stuff here ready. We will be coming back to doing some more waxing anyway, but for now I'm just showing you what I need to get these bits done before we can assemble the basic lantern. Okay, there we go, just coming on that last little bit. Oh, careful Deb, don't rip it. Almost. Okay, so they're the 4 sides, and just going to add a little bit on there, and I can just rub that. Now this is a bit sturdier, I can actually rub this around in circles a little bit. So, and I can just come up that top bit, just a tiny little bit. I can come up this top bit and just go round that draw pull that I've got at the top there. Okay. All right. So, see how, and so it sticks this stuff really well to the black cardstock and the construction tape. I don't know if you can see that. I can come back and add a bit more to that, but that's now toned that down, and I've got myself completely covered, which is not normal for me. Those of you that know me know how much of a messy crafter I can be. Right, okay, I'm going to pop these bits to one side. Take my frames off. I'm just going to move my messy mat out the way. Okay, so we've just sort of started doing that, and actually while we've got the cloth with some of this excess on, I'm just going to rub in on these edges as well, just a little bit, just to tone that down a bit. In fact, I need me a little bit back. There we go. Just a little bit, just to tone those down a bit, those edges. Here we go, and then we can get the things stuck on. Right, okay. It's easier to do it now. I'm just adding a little bit there. There we go. All right. There we are. 1, 2, 3. And down. A little bit on there. And then we'll just do the last 2 bits. Okay. Just take that on the edge, like so. How many of you like getting messy? Or are you a clean crafter? I am very much a messy crafter. Should see when I get all my alcohol inks and everything out, I do get into a bit of a mess with those. I think that's part of the fun. But perhaps it's just me. I don't know. Perhaps I am just the messy crafter. And yeah, be done with it. Right. Okay. So I've just rubbed in on those like so. Okay. Right, now we will put this to one side. That's it, put the little lid on. Right, okay. And all my fingers are covered in. Never mind. Right, okay, now we've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to stick down 3 of these, first of all. Okay, 1, 2, 3 on the outside. Don't worry about the black, because as I said, we will come back in and stick those on. Okay, so we're just going to stick these 2 down first. Where's my glue? And then we're going to flip it over and put the acetate on. Now that we've done all the messy bit on this frame. Okay, so hopefully these should sit over the gap like so. Okay, so it looks a bit odd, doesn't it, against the black, but that will get blended in once we do the whole lantern. Right, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to stick this one on. Just get these 2 off the table. Okay. Like so. Right, okay, just line that up. 1, 2, 3, like so. Right. And then we're going to add our acetate, because I'm going to put the other 2 frames on once we've joined that together. Okay. All right. So I hadn't forgotten. Right, putting our acetate on then. Okay, so these are just going to sit over the edge like so. So the easiest thing to do this really is to put your acetate going round on the edge, and I've cut these so that these are wide enough to take anything, well, probably the 9mm or the 6mm going all the way around. So I'm going to put 6mm on the edge of these, only because this is what I've got to hand for the minute. So I'm just going to take that edge off, and I'm literally just going to run this all the way around the edge of our acetate or vellum, depending on what you're using. I'm going to make another one of these, but I'm going to make it with a scene in, because I've got some really lovely vellum that's or acetate rather, that's got snowflakes on it. I think that look really nice in a Christmassy lantern. So at some point I will make another one. I think that will look really lovely. A bit like a snow globe type thing, but in the shape of a lantern, if you get my drift. Right, okay. So I need to do this on all your 4 pieces. How's everybody doing out there? Is everybody all okay? Right, I'll just stick these down and on. 2. Try not to stick fur on it. If you're like me and you have a fur baby, his fur just gets everywhere. And yes, I can't tell you how many crochet projects and knitting projects I've done, but there's probably a bit of his fur tucked in there for good measure. Right, okay. I'm just going to this on. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And just do these other sides. So yeah, around all 4 sides, and then we can get these attached. There we go. Now, if you've not had any of our red liner tape from the shop before, we do, while I'm just doing these, I'll just tell you about it. We've got 3, 6, 9, 12 and 25 millimeters, and they come in 50-meter rolls, would you believe? And I think they're really good value for money, and even more so because of our sale and that we've got going on. So if you need some, then do stock up, you know. So that's going to be really good. Right, we're on to the last one now, everybody, and then we can get these all put on. Okay. 1, 2, and our last 2 sides. Okay. Now, the reason I'm using red liner tape to add this is that glue, it is a bit slippy, and sometimes it might ooze out underneath, or it will mark your acetate. So that's why I personally like to use the red liner tape. I'm just making sure that's all. Hi Susie, welcome. Hope all's good with you. I'll just go around and put these on. Okay, right. So it's literally now, obviously I'm doing it the opposite side to where I put the frames on, and these are just going to stick right across, and where I've got the red liner tape now, I can see exactly how that is going to stick on there. So I can just peel these off, and we'll just get these stuck straight on, and then we can finish off our sides of our lantern, and then we'll make a start on our pyramid and our base. Right, okay, so I'm just putting that on there, lining up. As I said, there is plenty of space. Well, these are big enough sizes to go over that gap, so when you flip it over like so. Okay, right. Just peel these off. 1, 2. There we are. Glad you're here with us, Susie. Lovely of you to join us, darling. Right, okay. We're just going to stick this on. Okay, 1, 2, 2 more to go. Oh, it's beginning to look like a lantern. Well, almost. Almost. I do get a little bit excited, I know. I'm trying to get everything together. Right. Okay. Whoops. I didn't mean to do that. Right. Okay, we're going to stick that one on. There we are. 1, 2, 3. That sticks nicely on there. Now, if you were really, you know, crafty and you wanted to do something a little bit different, you could almost make these shaker pockets for your windows. I'm just putting it out there as another idea. You know, just 2 bits of clear acetate with some fake snow in between, because you've got a tiny little recess, but you would have to stick one on the outside before you put your frame on, and then one on the inside before you put the back on, and then that would make you a lovely shaker window, which could look quite good fun. Now that I've thought of that, I wish I'd done it now. Perhaps I'll do it on my scene one that I'm going to do, you know. Right, okay, so the inside of here, I'm just going to give that a wipe over, just because acetate and or vellum, what have you, gets a little bit static, and it will pick up everything. Doesn't look much at the moment on the outside, but don't worry people, it will do. Right, okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to join these two sides together. Okay, so I'm just going to run some tape all the way along like I did before. Okay, right, let's just take that, snip that off like that. Just going to put half of that, and it stops sticking to my fingers. All right, I'm going to put, whoops, I'm going to put that about halfway across, like so. And I'm going to bring this edge over. So this is another little tricky bit, but I'm just going to bring that up, and I'm going to line that up so that edge sort of sits on the other one, and then I'm going to fold that tape over like so. Just get that lined up. There we are. Right, okay, and I've just grabbed that. Now, while I've got long tails, and while we haven't closed our top of our pyramid or anything like that, I'm just gonna now fold this bit into the middle and run that down as best I can into that middle gap. It's a bit of a feel it job, but right, let's just unpeel that a little bit. That bit's just, now you could do this in two pieces, do the outside first and then do the inside, but there we are. Now I'm not going to put that bit down for the minute because I'm going to use that bit to come up and over the top, but I am missing a little bit of black in there, so I'm just going to cut a little strip and I'm just going to tuck that in. Just going to fold that in, so I don't know if you can see where I'm going. I'm coming in here, I'm just going to tuck that in. It's just so that when you look at it from the inside, that it sort of follows it all through. And let's move that out of the way. I'm just going to move that over a little bit. Let's just come over too far. Here we are. Fold that in half, put that in the crease, like so. Okay. So when I look from the inside, I mean, it's not, I know it's not the great, but it's not come over the windows, and it just tidies it up and it just strengthens that bit. Okay, and now this bit here, our four pyramids are going to come over. Now these won't possibly match exactly, but this is just our way of keeping this box as square as possible. I'm just going to bring that up, and I'm just going to stick that over those first two bits. I'm just going to hold that down like so. These will be covered anyway, but it was just more so for the strengthening and just keeping the box shape. Okay, all right, so we've got two on there, and then I'm just going to run some tape across the other side, and then that keeps that nice and sturdy. All right, so we're just going to put some tape going across. I will snip off these end bits. Like, oh, I need to bring that over a little bit more. Here we are. This will be covered because you're not going to see this anyway, but it's just holding it for some strength and stability. Okay, and just going to do another little bit on the other side, like so. Right, I'm just going to tip this upside down. I'm just going to push down on that just to make sure that that is fairly straight sides in there. Okay, so that, now that has made that quite sturdy box now. All right, okay, now we did have on here on the black card, I have got about a the internal lantern. I've got internal lantern top bit, which is a square, and that is just going to go on the inside and cover up all that mechanism, so that when you look at the inside of your lantern, you're not going to see that construction board. So I'm just going to stick that in now. So this is our internal lantern top. So on your it's 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 inches. Okay, so I'm just going to add some glue. Okay, and it's easier to do this now before we start attaching other bits. Okay, I'm just going to tuck that in. There's my pokey tool. There it is. Just going to move that paper over a little bit to centralise it. Try and get it as square as I can in the gap. Right, just going to push that down. Like so. Okay, so that's the internal bit done. All right, and that is the outside of our lantern. And now I can stick these other frames on, so we'll get those out the way. Oh, excuse me. Right, let's just add a bit of glue, like so. There we go. I'm just going to position this on like that, so it's just covering. Okay, and like I said, we'll go over these edges and that with the gilding wax once everything's all been put together. Okay, and then our final side, and that is our lantern centre part done. How's everybody doing? If you're all good, give me a thumbs up. That'd be lovely. Those of you that are working along with me. Okay. I'm just going to pop that on like so. You can see why I went round and gilded the internal bit as well. It just helps blend that all in. Okay, right, so that's just going to sit there for the minute and dry. Okay, right, so let's get on to our pyramid sides and our pyramid base. So this is our base. Now our pyramid sides, okay, so I've cut 3 of mine already. Let me just clear up some of this mess. There we go. And I'm just going to cut this other one. So your measurements for your pyramid base, for your side, is 5 inches by 4 inches. Okay, and so with the 5-inch side along the bottom, you're going to come in and mark 2.5 inches, so centered. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut from there down to these corners here to create our pyramid shape. Okay, so I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to line that up like so. That's one bit done. And I'm just going to come over and do the other piece. Try and make sure I've got that as close to it as I can. Okay, so that gives you your 4. Okay, and then our pyramid base here. So what's going to happen is that these 4 pieces are going to, well, we could do it one of 2 ways. We could either join them to the base first, like this. So I'm giving you options as to what you find easier to work with. Okay, and then you would run your tape on the outside to sort of join those together. Or what we can do is run our tape and we'll put our 4 sides together and then fold it and then attach it to the base. Okay, so I'm going to go with the easier option, and I'm just going to have the base in the middle, and I'm just going to join the 4 sides. Okay, but whichever is easier for you to handle, that's absolutely fine. So I'm just going to cut strips. Okay, and again, like we did before with the lantern, it's going to come over not quite half because I need to leave a little gap, like so. And then on the edge, I'm just going to drop that down. Now the side that you're sticking to is obviously this 5-inch side coming along. Okay, and I'm just going to fold that over. I'm not going to worry about that gap for the minute. I can go in and do my fillings and I'll trim off afterwards. Right, I'm going to do the next one. Because some of it, you're not going to see some of this because it's going to be obviously inside our pyramid. Like so. Now I'm going to again attach that on like so. Here we are. I'm going to just put that. I've got a rough idea of where that gap is going. Right, I'm going to fold that over, sandwich that for a minute, that's going to come over, and we can do all the tarting up bits in a minute. Right, there we go, side 3, again I'm just going to pop that on, make sure I've got the right side on there, leave a little gap to allow for that to fold up. It's going to come over, that one's going to come down, and then our final side. I love the noise that that makes. Does anybody else? Or is it just me? No, it's probably just you, Deb. Weird sounds. It's like, I reckon if they had a competition on different sounds crafters make using different tools, I think we would be able to do quite well with our guessing. Right, okay, that's the side. Wouldn't we? It's like when you're inking the edges and everything else, that is quite a distinctive sound, you know. Okay, so now I've got those 4 bits on, so those are going to come up. I'm just going to trim out these bits here. These are all going to get covered anyway, so not overly worried. 1, 2. It's this little star shape, isn't it? Right, 3. And number 4. Okay, right, so these are now going to come across and make our pyramids. Okay, so let's just make those sit down properly. That's it, give that a wiggle, just make sure they've sat in nice. All right, so what we're going to do is just do one side at a time, and I'm only going to do the outsides. I don't need to do the insides with the tape because we're not going to see those. And what I'm going to do is because I want a nice straight edge at the bottom, I'm just going to cut that straight. Give myself a bit of length on there. All right, here we go. So I'm just going to hold those together and come up one side. One side like so, get that stuck down. And now I'm going to bring up the other part to meet it, and now I can fold that over. Right, let's just make sure that that is sitting against that edge. There we go. Right, and that is our first part of our pyramid on. That bit I can just tuck in on the inside. There we go. Okay, now we're going to do exactly the same on the other sides. Okay, so I've got a straight edge on there. And just going to put the tape running down half that side. Going to the top, that's going to come in, that's now resting against there, that comes over, and we're just going to tuck that down. I can just fold it in over the corner. There we go, tuck those in, and now we're on the last bit. Don't worry if it's slightly out. By the time you put your tape on and everything, you're not going to notice, all right? Don't panic. Okay. So again, I'm just coming up one side. Okay. And now I can tuck that one in. Just align that so that sits nicely. There we go. Just going to take that up and over the top. I'm not too worried about that bit at the top because we're going to have our little thing on the top there. And then the final piece. Okay. And again, I'm just going to come up one side. Make sure that is stuck on there. Right, and I'm going to just push that down to meet it. There we go. And that is our pyramid done. Okay, and don't worry too much about this top part because that's, as I said, it's going to be covered, and we've got our papers to put on there as well. So I could get my little burnish tool out and just give that, make sure that's all gone. Got a nice little sharp edges on our ridges. Okay. So this will obviously eventually stick on top of our lantern. Okay, now I've already put on here I'm going to cut that bit off because it's annoying me, but here we go. Right, so we should have in the black cards what I call your pyramid base. Okay, so this is going to stick on the underside. All right, so we're going to put that on now. So I'll just get this glued, and then we're going to cover the 4 sides of our pyramid, and then we can attach it all together. Like so. Okay, so it's just because the overhang of the pyramid will be seen on the underside, so I just want to make sure that that is nicely covered. Okay, like so. And then on the top bit here, I'm going to put some strips of red tape, red liner tape, because I really want the I want the lid or the pyramid bit to sit nice and glued and fixed on there properly. So I'm going to use the big stuff. This is a 25 mils, but if you haven't got it, you can just use lots of the other size red liner tape. I'm just going to pop this on. There we are. So we're just getting this prepped ready before we put the top on. Okay, right, okay, I'm just trying to do that. I have to go down this size. I don't think I'm going to get another one of these on. I'm going to fit another one on there. Oh, if I overlap it just a fraction, I'll overlap it just a fraction. There we go. That's fine. Okay, I'm going to get me Bernie. Where's Bernie? Where's Bernie? I had a lot of use tonight, Bernie. Right, we'll just give that a quick rub over. So that's ready for our pyramid base. Okay. So our pyramid sides. So you've got 4 of these in the tape, in the black card rather. Okay, 4 3/4 inches by 3 7/8. And again, we're going with the 4 3/4 along the bottom. Okay, and then we're going to cut it into the center point there. Now, by my calculations, I've put 2 7/16 here, but I'm just going to double check. So 4, did I say 4 3/4? So that's 4 3/4. So coming in like an inch, so that's 1 inch there, 1 inch there. It's technical stuff, this, people. 1 inch there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is 2 3/8. 2 3/8. 2 3/8, which is my mark off point. And like we did with the construction board, we're just going to use that mark point and then we're going to trim these off. Okay, now please don't panic if these are slightly out when you come to put it on your pyramid, okay, because obviously we've got slight gaps, we've got tape to take into consideration as well. Any adjustments we can just cut off a little strip if we need to. Okay, so the idea is that is going to sit on there. Okay, so we're going to get those all cut ready. So I'm going to cheat, I'm going to do all 3 together. So what did I say? 2 3/8 of an inch. 2 3/8 of an inch. That's my pencil mark. And then I'm just going to cut those like so. One, 2, just gone through those 3, and we're just going to do the same on the other side. This might slightly be out, but here we go. 1, 2, 3. Right, okay. 1, 2, 3. Now we could either gild wax these now before we stick them on, or we can stick them on and do them afterwards. I think we'll stick it all on because what I want is to get the top on and allow that to dry, and then we can come back and do the finishing off bits afterwards, because we've still got to do the finishing off on our edges of our lantern. So I'm just going to stick these on, like so. I'm just going to stick that on there. As I said, if any of the panels are slightly out, obviously there is a slight gap going around each, like the black tape you can see, which is fine. Okay, but we'll just get these on so we can start putting our lantern together. Now, depending on which way you've cut these, just make sure you've got it the right way round. Stick it on there, because these triangles are slightly out, so just make sure you've got them to go the right way. Okay. Now, before you know it, everybody, we're going to have a lovely little Christmas lantern. Just going to tuck that one on, like so. Might need to add a little bit of glue to that. I know it's going to be hidden underneath, but still want that to stick. Okay. There we go. Obviously, you've got a bit more time to be a little bit more cautious with yours. Right. And then our final triangle. I'm going to pop on. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, okay, so I'm just going to let that glue take hold. Okay, stuck that on the right way round. I don't think I did. No, I did have it on the right way round. There we are. So I'm saying the triangles, it looked like it was slightly squiffy, but no, that's good. Right, okay. Right. So that should just stick on and dry. And then with the top, now when I put the top on initially, I put it on and I actually glued it down onto that. Okay, but what you could do if you're a bit, you know, depending on what glue you're using, obviously I use the bookbinding glue, which just sort of grabs everything, but if you find that's not holding on, then what you could do is get some black tape and just run some black tape around that just to really secure that. I know we've already gilded on that because my original plan, well, my plan is to just put a load of glue in and stick it on there and let it hold. But if you want to, you can go around it and just put a little bit of black tape just to hold that in place. Okay, but I'm just going to put a load of glue on the inside here and then just let that take and let that dry while we crack on with the base. Okay, all right, so I'm just going to push that down. I'm giving it a little bit of a hold on there. I'm just waiting for that to grab. Right, so there are 2 pieces that are already done. How are we doing for time? Okay. Right, let's do the base. So the lantern base, you were to cut out from construction board 2 pieces. Okay. One is our actual base and the other one is going to be the frame, which is this little bit that comes round there. You can see where I've got that little indent here ready for the lantern to sit on. Okay, so you need to give yourself a 3/8 of an inch frame all the way round. So I'm just going to, I've marked it up already, I'm just going to cut it out. Like so. Okay, and then I'm just going to come around and do the other sides. So let's push it out, it's really good. And then I'm going to come in and do this side. Like so, there we go. And our final side. 1, 2, 3. Four. Okay. Right, so I'm going to hang on to that bit. That will come in handy for something else. Right, okay, so there's the frame. So what we're going to do is glue this down onto our base. Like so. Okay, right, we're just going to pop that on like so. So it just gives that little bit of detail so that our lantern sort of sits in that recess bit. Okay. And then with the black tape, we're going to run it along and fold it over on all 4 sides. Okay. So I'm just going to cut so I'm just going to come over a fraction of that because I want this tape to, so I suppose I'm coming over about a quarter of an inch. Okay, because on this side I will put some black cardstock on the actual very bottom, so it's going to cover that up, but I just needed enough on there so that that then comes over and tucks in. I'm just running my nail along there, it just tucks in along like so. Okay, so that's what we're aiming for. Okay, so you've got a little bit, so it's coming over, yeah, about a quarter of an inch, and then the rest of the tape will come up and over that edge. It's just going to give us that nice finish on our base. Okay, so we're going to do that on all 4 sides. So again, coming in about a quarter of an inch, that thickness of tape. Okay, and that's going to fold over. I'm just making sure that that's it, get that. And this is when you can use your burnish tool to go in there, and I'm just using my nail just to tuck that in before I push that right down. And just come into the corners so we get a nice finish in the corners. There we go. I'll just lift that up. Let's tuck that in there so I've got a bit of like so, and I can just trim these bits off. There we are. Okay, and then we're just going to do the other sides because we will put some black cardstock in here as well, so it all neatens it off. Okay, and our final side, here we go. Just going to again coming in about a quarter of an inch on that tape. It's going to fold over. Make sure that's nice and smooth. Now I'm going to come in and do the corners, so I can lift that a little bit. Tuck that in. There we go. So we just get a nice finish. And then we've just got one more side to do. Okay. And there we go, which is just tuck that round. And then our final side. Oh, I'm getting lots of black tape everywhere now. Stuff sticks together. Right, okay. Now I want to try and get a decent finish on there. Okay. And I'll just line that up. 1/4 of an inch. Whoops. Don't stick just yet. I'm not quite lined up. There we go. 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. Why is it always the last bit is the fiddly bit? Okay, so now we're going to just stretch that over, smooth that down. Okay, I'm just going to come in, do that corner, come along. Okay, and that is almost our base done. So we're just going to trim off those last little bits. Okay. Great. Okay. Now we should have already, with our black cardstock, cut out our internal lantern base, which is that bit, and then our lantern base, which is our external bit, which, if you've got your tape right, look at that, it sits and covers. So let's glue these on, and then we're going to make the little tea light holder bit for the inside, and then we are almost at assembling our lantern, and then we will obviously put that on our put it all together and put that on. Right, okay. Oh, I've got Madeline watching as well, and Jackie, hiya. Just had a quick little look. I was too busy concentrating. Let's see what everybody else was saying and doing. Okay. Right, I'm just going to put this bit in. Right. Okay. Right. And there we go. Okay, so that is all our base bit done. Now, obviously, that will also be, we will gild that with the wax and everything else. But to be honest, just conscious of the time, and I just want to make sure that everybody sees how everything else is done. So we'll crack on with that, and then we can come back and do all the gilding bit right at the end, along with the decorations. Now, black cardstock, your tea light holder, 2 1/4 inches by 9 inches, okay? And then you're going to score on the 9-inch side at 2 1/4, 4 1/2, and 6 3/4. So you end up with like a little concertina thing, okay? All right. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to punch circle. Where's my circle punch? We're going to punch circles in each of these. Okay, so the first one I'm going to, now I'm using on a 1 1/2 inch punch, and I'm just going to tuck that in there, and I'm going to try and get that as central as I can. Let's turn it around that way. As central as I can to that, on that square. Okay, now if you're unsure about doing it this way and just going for it, what you can do is get your little tea light, put that in the center of your square, draw a pencil round it like so. So that is, well, that's not too bad. And then I can now use that as a guide to punch out. Now I can see that that is slightly up on one side, but I'm going to punch that out. Okay, and that is what's going to hold my tea light. But I need to repeat that on all the other 3 sides. So the easiest way of doing it is now we've done one, is use that as your template. Do your circle, use your punch to line it up and punch it out. Now if you haven't got a 1.5 inch, then use your tea light and just work with that, and then you'll just have to sort of cut that out unless you've got die. So as you can see, they both fit quite nicely. And then I'm going to go in again, do another circle. So I'm just working my way down and just going to line that circle up. Pop, 1, 2, 3. I'll hang on to them circles because they will come in handy for something else. And then my final side, I'm going to put that in there. And here we go, our other little circle punch coming over. So near as, damn it, look at that, that's pretty spot on. There we go. Right, okay, I can tuck that out of the way now. And then we're just going to glue these concertina bits together. All right, so you're making like 4 layers of the circles. Okay, so I'm just going to put a bit of glue, so that will go in onto that one. I mean, yeah, I suppose you could have just done these like squares and just cut out the circles if that makes it easier, but I've just done it concertina, but that's just me. I think it was just a bit of scrap that I had that I thought, oh yeah, I'll use that. What can I use that for? And that's what I did, but there we go. But it sort of holds it all together and keeps it all in line. Okay, so that is going to be our tea light holder. Now if you're not wanting to put a tea light holder in there at all, then obviously you don't need to do that. Okay, you might decide that you just want the lantern as it is, as a decorative piece without any light in it whatsoever, in which case you will take your thing, you will glue that to that with your bit on top, and then that's it, all job done. Okay, especially if you're going to do like a see-through one with a scene or something in there, you'd create the scene in the base first and then glue that over on the top. But I wanted to have a little tea light holder in mind, so I'm trying to get that as centered as I can, so that's fine. So I'm now going to glue this on like so. All right, and that's going to stick on like that. Okay, and that will just hold down. So it's just enough there just to sort of catch that. I mean, obviously if you tip the lantern, it's going to fall out, okay? But it's just enough to sort of capture that while it's sat in there. Now, again, when I was making this, I thought, oh yeah, I could have the lantern and I could just take the whole thing off. But then I thought, well, actually, I quite like the fact that if it was hinged onto it, then I can lift it up and I can put some little magnets in here to hold it into situ. So let me just show you what I did on the original. So here, I've literally just put a bit of tape, literally just a bit of tape coming along that edge to hold that on. And then I've just made 2 little magnet closures there and magnets on the inside there to hold that, to stop that from, and that these magnets hold that enough. Okay, you don't have to do that. You could have it just freestanding there. You can just take it on and off if you wanted to. But let me show you what I did with the magnets. So it had 2 little strips. Now I have put the score marks on here, okay, for these bits, but actually all I did is that on these little strips I've just folded it in half, okay, and then I've just folded it in half again, like so. All right, so you end up with a little L shape, which is going to sort of glue on there, okay, and then literally again I just did that with that one. So I worked out 2 magnets to hold the one side together. Now what I could have done to make it a bit neater, I could have tucked these underneath that base. In fact, I probably could lift that just a little bit and tuck those in, but I personally wasn't that worried. But if you're making these for a gift, you might want to do that. You might just want to, before you put the base on, is get your magnets sorted. Okay, so what I did was, well, what we're going to do is put a little magnet on the inside, just in here, okay, and glue those, and then we'll glue these little flaps down. So just going to put glue on one side, both of those, okay, and little magnets, slippery little whatsits. We've got loads of lovely magnets in the shop, and these are the ones that we've got in the shop that I'm currently using. So I'm going to hold that in there. I'll put that other one in on there. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue because I really want to make sure it sticks. Okay, and then that's just going to come over. Oops. So you're putting it in the fold bit of your little L-shaped bit of card, like so. I'm just going to give that a really good squeeze. Now I'll be honest, this was an afterthought for me when I designed the lantern. So you know, but as I said, you've got choice of what you want to do. Okay, so they're in there. Just put those other little magnets over there for the minute. Yeah, what I might do is just peel. That side's not quite stuck down, so I am going to tuck that bit. So I want the magnet bit sticking up, and then I'm going to tuck that bit in on the inside. But I've just got to be wary of how much room I've got to take that in. I don't think that's going to work, not unless I cut a little slot in there and tuck that in. So because I've got to think of the thickness of the lantern, so we'll re-glue that down there. So we'll stick with what I did initially. Okay, but if you really wanted to, you could cut a tiny little slot, tuck in your end so that your magnets are hidden and you've just got them sticking out like so on your base page. Okay, or the base of your lantern rather. Right, so I'm just going to stick these on. So I'm sticking these with the magnet bit up. I'm allowing myself a bit of room to put the lantern over the top. So let's just try that for size. Is that going to hold that? Yeah. So I suppose I've come in about 1/4 of an inch from this edge here. Looking at my original, yeah, about 1/4 of an inch. Right, okay. But like I said, you don't have to do this, and I'm just lining up the edge of this with the edge of the tea light holder. Okay, and I won't attach the other magnets until I've joined the base to the lantern itself, because then I can get those other magnets lined up. Okay, so they're just going to hold in place there. Now this is again strong glue, but what I could do is just put a little bit of black tape over that if I wasn't sure whether that was going to hold or not. But I'm just going to let that dry for a minute. Okay, so they're sort of bending over, and then these are the other magnets that will, so we're just going to attach those so they're ready to put on that lantern edge when we fix it down. Okay, so that's our base, and obviously I can go over that and do all the gilding and everything else. Right, so let's start assembling this and put this together. So this is glued and is holding nicely. So I'm going to take off the red liner tape and I'm going to attach this. Now I will put some glue on here because we will need a bit of wiggle room, because we need to make sure that we centre our pyramid as much as possible. Oops, come on. There we go. 3 and a final bit. That's it, because I've overlapped it. There we go, so that should stick down now. Okay, I'm just going to put a load of glue on here. Now, you could, obviously, before we put the pyramid bit on the top, you could finish doing your gilding, waxing down the sides. I will go back and do that afterwards, just conscious of time and that. So I'm going to stand up for this. Okay, right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to centre it on a square grid on my board, so that when I drop this down I can sort of try and eye it and hope for the best. Okay, right, let's turn it round. Not quite. Well, let's try it doing up the other way. Okay, it's a little bit tricky. Right, okay, I think we're almost there. Looking at it, I think that is fairly sturdy now. Right, okay, that is our pyramid base. Oh, on the base attached to our lantern base. There we go. Oh my goodness, it's coming together, everybody. Right, okay, so when I'm attaching this to the base here, I will put a strip of black tape going along there, and it will come onto there, and that is what I'm going to use as my hinge. Okay, so let's just do that, because I know some of you wanted me to show you how I did put the decoration on, so conscious of the fact that I want to show you that. So I'm just going to put this tape, it's probably, there we go, let's put this tape on the inside again, about halfway. Come on, don't stick to my fingers. So I'm just going to run it along like so. Okay, it's a little bit long on that side. Let's just trim that off. Okay. So that is on there. Now I'm doing it to the opposite side of where the magnets are. So I'm now going to tip that, drop that on, lift that up, and I'm literally now just going to tuck my finger in there and just feel for that tape and run that down, and that is now attached. Okay, now as to the magnets, oh, I'm losing my chair now. Right, okay, so as to the magnets, where I've stuck them on there, I'm going to put a little bit of glue, and I'm hoping that that glue is going to rub in roughly where these magnets will need to go on the other side. So let's just put a double of glue. I'm just going to put those in. I'm going to push that down, see on the inside, yes, it worked. I can see where the magnets have got to go, so I'm now going to take that off and stick that on either side. Not my finger. Sticking to my finger. Okay, and I'm just going to attach a little bit of tape to those just to hold them in place. It's probably the easiest way of keeping them in situ. So, oh look, I've just dropped that and they just stuck to the other side. Oh, you little rascals. Well, let's stick you. Right, what I'm going to do, oh goodness me, is put the tape on, put that back to front. Okay, so that's going to line in with that. All right, so it's a little bit tricky. And I've got a bit of that tape coming over the edge, but I will trim that off. Right, let's see if that magnet is gonna, that holds that. That's holding one side, okay. So I'm just gonna trim that little bit off. They're little rascals, aren't they? These magnets. They remind me a bit like Minions, these magnets, you know, they've got a mind of their own and they do what they please, and yeah. Right, let's just tuck that back down. Okay, let's peel you off, stick you on. Okay, right, let's just get another little bit of tape and get it stuck down quick before it moves again. Right, moment of truth, people. Is that going to work? Yes, look at that. And they hold almost. Might just need to bend that forward just a little bit of wiggle in that thing just to get a good closure on that. There we are. Hoorah! A little bit fiddly that, but we did it, people. We did it. Okay, and then my little tea light will go in like so. Let's just put this on. There we are. Okay, that is our basic lantern done. So it's just over to the decoration now, really. So I'm just going to bring back my gilding wax, because what I'll do is I'm just going, and I've put, just to show you on here, I put the flower decoration at the front bit where the magnets are, so I know that that is the front. So if I need to open it, I know which side to go with. Okay, so I'm just going to rub on some wax on the top here. I can finish off and do the rest of it later, but I just want to be able to show you how I did put the flowers and everything on. So right, so this bit I'm just going to add a little bit here and there for a minute, and then I can just now rub that in. You see, now it's a bigger surface, I can sort of do circles. I can come down those edges, and it just helps blend that in. It doesn't take that long to do, but you can take your time over this bit. I'm just getting through this so I can show you the flower decorations, and you can add on as much or as little as you like. Just come along and doing that edge like so, just a little bit So yeah, do pop along to the shop and grab yourself some of this, because these colours are just fantastic. And it's surprising, you know, when I tell people that this has been made using black card, and they go, seriously? And I go, yeah. And they're like, well, how did you get it to go that colour? Now you know the secret, everyone. Now you know. Right, okay, so I'm quite happy with that. And it sort of just blends in beautifully. And the thing is that when you get some, do try it on different coloured cards as well, because you'll get slightly different colour effects with it. Obviously this is just on black, but you know, if you did it on white, you'll get a different tone completely, as to what you get on the black. So do sort of mess around with them and have a go, and maybe do yourself some like little swatches or something, so that, you know, when you come to want other projects and stuff and you want to use it, then you know exactly what you're doing. So I'm just going to do this pyramid bit first, okay, because then I can show you what I did with the ribbon and everything else, and the foliage and stuff. So I can go in and mess around with this a little bit more, but you get the idea. Okay, now where's my front? That's the, oh, pulled that then. Right, that's the front. Right, let's re-glue that back down again. Right, that's the front bit. Just trim that bit off, a little bit of tape showing. Right, okay, so what I did, clean my fingers. Right, I'm going to move that out of the way for the minute. So I've got a selection of foliage that I use. Okay, and I've got like different ribbons and stuff like that. I did think, do I go with the red and the gold? But I quite like the gold that I've got already, so I'm going to use that. And I did this in two ways. I just made the loops. So this is wired ribbon. Okay, you can pick this up anywhere really. It's just really lovely stuff to work with. Just be careful of the ends, because sometimes you can stab your finger on the ends. Okay, so what I did is that I did the bow bit first. So let's just move that out of the way. So I just did a bow, and I came back on myself and did another bow. All right, and I just sort of test that on the size. Now I did, so I think that needs to be a little bit smaller, so I'm just going to bring that down a bit and just come round and did that. Okay, so I reckon that's probably about the size, so I'm going to just cut that. And then I had my tails, and I literally just folded over the tails, and I sort of measured it roughly. I mean, I can trim these off a little bit anyway, so I'm just gonna cut that. Okay, so these are my tails, so I've got them sort of bunched up together. Okay, so they all sort of come down like so, and then these just overlap at the back with that. All right, and then that just creates my bow part. Now I've got some floristry or sort of wire here, so let's just cut off a bit. Okay, and I'm just going to make a loop. I'm just going to hook that over, so I'm catching both ends, okay, and that center point, and I'm just going to wrap that around a couple of times. If you haven't got floristry wire, fuse wire will work just as well, or a bit of twine or something, you know, Right, so I just want to sort of test that out, so that works. Okay, so I sort of wrapped that round a couple of times just to secure that. I'm not worried about the black bit showing because that it will get hidden when we come to put the other foliage on. Okay, so I'm just sort of sitting with that, and then I've got my other bit of ribbon here that's going to come in. So I'm just going to get another little bit of that wire. Now I'm wiring it all onto I'm trying to make like a stick of some description, something to sort of hold it all together in place, because I will eventually be poking a hole in the pyramid, and I want to be able to have something to hold on to. Now I've got the edge of my wire here, and where's it gone? Oh, there's that end. Right, just needed a little bit more. Okay, and literally I'm just going to put that bit on there, and again I'm just going to wrap it around. So I've got them on separate ones but sort of joining it together, if that makes sense, because then I can alter the shape if I need to. Right, I'm going to just twist that round. Okay, so this is going to be our basic bow, which is going to go in like so. All right, now the other bits that I've got, I had some of this sort of foliage stuff, which what I did is that I cut off because I wanted, and I think I glued some of these bits on. So these are just bits and pieces that I had knocking around, but there's loads of stuff out there that you can get. You see I've got some here with sort of looking a bit similar. Now the problem is that I only had one of the fir cones that size when I made it, but I have bought some other stuff, and these have got little gold berries on, or I've got these tiny little ones which has got a few berries. So I'm sort of debating what to go with. I might use this one and maybe the gold just to sort of tie in, maybe some gold on there, or I'll just have the red. Perhaps I won't do the gold, perhaps we'll just go with the red. So there's two little ones on there as opposed to one big one. Okay, so what I did is I trimmed these off, a couple of these, and I think I only put 3 on, so I'm just taking off 1, 2, 1, 2. Did I have another odd one? Let's take that off. 3. And this is where you're going to have to do this a little bit at a time, because you're going to need to allow bits to dry. So I just sort of trimmed off some of the bottom because I want to sort of create a stalk effect at the bottom, just something that when I glue it, it's got something more solid to stick to. And this is when I really get messy, because as you can see, everything's just going everywhere. Now I'm conscious that we're just running over time a little bit, so please just bear with me, and I'll just show you how I started to build this together, and then obviously you can sort of do your heart's content then in your own time. All right, so I've got 3 of those. Let's move those gold ones out of the way. Right. So I know that this is my front because that's got the magnets at the front. Okay, and basically this is the scary bit, because you think the whole thing's going to collapse, but you just need to be brave and go for it. And what I did is that I came down probably about 3/4 of an inch, and I make a hole with my pokey tool. and we're going to make that a fairly decent size hole. Okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to hook this in, so that will sit. Okay, and I will add glue to this as well, everybody. All right, so I'm just showing you how I put this together. So I'll sort of put that in. Okay, these bits I glued underneath the ribbon, so 1, 2, and then I glued them on first, and then I put the ribbon in, and I had an odd one coming down like that. Okay, so that is going to hold like that for the minute. All right, and then literally these bits here I sort of joined together. Now what I found is that whoops, obviously you glue that together, just bear with it. Now I found with these that there was quite a lot of white on these, so I did trim off, and I did go round and ink on my original one just to tone that whiteness down. Okay, so what I would do is I would have this in like so, and because we've got this one, I would probably tap that one into the middle, and I would put that one maybe round on that side as well, so you get those. You'll just have to arrange it, and then I would tie the whole lot together, and I would poke it into the hole, but I would glue it. Okay, so that's the ribbon going in there. These just got glued on, or whatever foliage you've got or ribbon, I just glued onto the edge, but these bits would also go into the hole. If I need to make the hole a bit bigger, then that's fine, but it's just giving you an idea. So there we are. So like you had those in, and then I could always put in another hole further down if I needed to stick any foliage further down, but I would sort of tuck that in like so, and then tuck I know it looks a bit of a mess, doesn't it, but you need to spend time doing this, everybody. Okay, you need to spend a bit of time, but that in its essence is what I did. Okay, and literally I did the bow, I far-arsed around with those bits, I trimmed off those bits, and that is it. I haven't got time to glue it all together and wait for it to dry before I move on to the next bit. Do you get the idea? Please tell me that you get the idea. Okay, yes, Mum, you trimmed off the white bits, but you get the idea, everybody. Okay, that whatever foliage you've got and that you're using to decorate your oh no, I've stuck it in there, I can't get it out, that you've stuck your that you've sort of decorating your lovely lantern with, you just need to take your time, but that's how I did it. I just made a hole, and I did put glue in the hole just to hold everything in place. Okay, so hopefully everybody gets that idea. I will get this finished off, this one, with the bits of foliage that I've got, and I will post it so that you can see the finished one, and I'll put the two together so you've got that comparison. Okay, right, that is us done then. Okay. So thank you as always for watching. As I said, if you haven't used these wax before, they're on the shop, £5.89, and with our discount as well, really good buy. There's the original one. Okay, now actually I've used two different products, but I did on this one compared to the new stuff that I've got, and actually the colour match is still pretty decent. Okay, and I would just go around and finish gild waxing everything else, like the corners and stuff like that, to blend it all in. All right, so you get the idea. All right, but these are really lovely, they're really sturdy. Hopefully they'll do you for Christmases to come, and yeah, I think they're just going to look very lovely and decorative on any table or mantelpiece or wherever you plan to put them. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget, next week we're doing the handcrafted crackers, Christmas crackers for your Christmas table. And the week after is our mystery item that we will be making. And I'm not telling you any more than that. So if you haven't downloaded your PDFs for those 2 items, I suggest you pop over and get that done soon as well. Okay, please post your finished items as well on our Facebook page. Okay, we absolutely love to see all the finished items, and that it'll be really great to see them. So please do that as well. And this video will be uploaded onto YouTube over the weekend. So if you were just sitting watching and you want to go away and now make one, then obviously you can. Okay, so I'm going now. Take care. Have a lovely weekend. I'll see you next week. Bye.